Welcome to another episode of Brain Cancer Diaries. Might as well start with the obvious, and it's the slate you just saw for Ben North. He's somebody that I was really hoping to incorporate more into this particular episode. He is based in the UK, GBM guy, excellent writer. In fact, some might call him the uncrowned poet laureate of the cancer world, a dubious title that I'm sure he would find great humor in having. Anyway, sometimes cancer intervenes into the best laid plans. It's actually not the first time or even the second time. It's actually the third time it's actually interfered with plans that I've had for this series, and it's unfortunate, but just also just shows you how very real cancer is. People die. It sucks. You know, while I didn't know him well, he kind of helped me realize early on just by seeing his work that despite our diagnoses, we are all still very much human, which is kind of the point of this episode. Even though these poems may contain references to cancer, we patients are much more than that. We are humans first. We just can't help but talk about cancer a little bit, because how can you not? I will also give the caveat before I get going. I don't really know much about poetry, what makes a good poem, what makes a bad poem. All I know is what I like, and all three of these people make me feel things. Hope you enjoy it.
This is Rudy. He has brain cancer. This series is about much more than that, though. It's about people with all kinds of cancers and serious chronic illnesses who might help him process his own diagnosis. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's serious, but hopefully it's always interesting.
A sonnet of fire. The ideas scattered like ashes in wind, flaming up and burning out without end. My mind is dim candles flickering in sin, praying to old gods to not break but bend. The light shows my scars here, there, and allwhere. The tough parts fragile, sensitive to touch. Bare skin, missing bone, so much missing hair. Surgery rebuilds me till it's too much. Memories of myself to keep me warm, burning at the edges of every turn. What's left of my mind is not true to form. A soft shadow exposes to burn. I set myself on fire to be free. What is left of fire is not enough me.
But I started writing poetry when I was about 5 years old. I started talking full sentences at 1 year old, so that should tell you how annoying I probably was to my mother. So she handed me, paper and pen, and I started writing, and she kept my first written poem. And it was called What It Is for You and Me. What it is for you and me, what we do every day. Is it the way we play, or is it the way we share fair and square? What is it that we do that makes us so happy? Is it the ways we learn of the world, or is it just you and me? And I wrote that when I was 6.
Pretty amazing. I mean, those are some pretty complex thoughts for a 6-year-old.
Yeah, well, I used to go up to her and ask her, Mom, what's nothing? And she'd say, ask your father, please. As I went from, being a little kid and testing the waters to being a teenager and writing kind of the goth, woe is me, teenage angst poetry that I thought would, make great songs, to, in my 20s when I was, getting my English degree and I was really honing my skills, to moving into the workforce and all the emotions that go along with thinking you're a faker. What was I doing here? How did I get to be this tech exec from having an English degree? And going through my first divorce. Anytime there's emotional shakeup, good or bad, it winds up in a poem. And I think if I had looked back on my life, I could tell it to you through poetry. There were poems that I wrote sitting on the radiator, looking out of the window of my bedroom down at the snow when my parents divorced. You want to bring a picture up into somebody's mind. So the way that you write, if you can't see something, if the visual doesn't come across, then you haven't done your job as a writer. The way that you invoke those visuals is very personal to the reader. And so it's almost as if you're leading them to a place where they can see what they want to in your poem, because they're going to relate to it in their own way, bring their own experience to it, and visualize it in a completely different way than you do. When you take it to a community like the cancer community, and you can express an emotion or an event, right? So one of my poems is about chemotherapy, but it doesn't say this is about chemotherapy. It expresses the feelings around chemotherapy, what chemotherapy has done, and it's more about, it stole my words, basically.
Right here, I mean, my friend Byron King, he's not a trained poet at all, but he's a brain cancer patient. I mean, he'll admit, I don't know the first thing about writing poetry, but he's just conveying his thoughts, and something about it speaks to me. It comes off as depressing and dark if you haven't been, you can't, but I see it as very sort of positive and upbeat. Just because I see a different subtlety in the words.
It's another thing now. I'm willing to stand in the gentle rain at sunset, but not to stand in the storm of sorrow and regret. It was one thing to own all the mornings yet to come, before I knew the darkness would yield to the sun. It's another thing now. I'm willing to see the sparkle in my love's blue eyes, but not to shield those dark with fear of life's demise. With honest hearts, I will share the depths of my pain, but with doubting minds, I've no time left to explain. It's another thing now. My time is limited and the days run late, and I'm too busy finding moments of joy to follow hardened days. There's no time to waste on those who demand plans written in pen. It was one thing when I had a calendar without end. It's another thing now.
My father's son. He was a big blonde man, my dad. Easy to laugh, easy to smile. He smoked his way to a collection of beautiful soft cigarette packets saved from trips abroad. Iconic designs from an age of triumphant inhaling. Later, he moved to little tins of cafe creme, after dinner cigarillos, which he drew down like camels. He took a good photograph, painted butterflies and flowers well, loved single malts and quality blends, and my mother very much. Once, frustrated by some teenage twist from me, he banged the breakfast table and briefly raised his voice. He was in tears half a moment later. I had become strange to him, pain in my skin, unhappy in the world. A tumor came for him at 45, not the lungs, but the brain. One night I found him in our armchair, gasping, moaning, jerking, caught up in what was once called a fit. 10 months later I raised a glass to the sky for him. Early on, from his hospital bed, he lied, told me everything would be alright, but it really wasn't. And now, at last, in this at least, I had become my father's son. Did you enjoy the video that you just watched? Then please share it all over social media. And while you're at it, could you also go ahead and subscribe to the Brain Cancer Diaries channel that you're on right now here on YouTube?
Like, share, and subscribe.